Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. The title of my story today is The Shadow Harvesters. There was a village called Ebube. Ebube was a quiet village surrounded by thick forests and blessed with fertile lands. The people lived in harmony, farming and trading at the central market, where laughter and greetings filled the air. The town had never known terror until the arrival of Mr. and Mrs. Okechukwus. They came in a dark, sleek car one early evening. Their movements quiet and calculated. Their house, a large abandoned structure on the edge of town, had been vacant for years. Nobody knew why they chose to live there. The villagers were happy to have new neighbors, but something about them felt off. Mr. Okechukwus was tall and thin, with piercing eyes that seemed to look through a person's soul. He rarely spoke, but when he did, his voice was cold and sharp. His wife, Mrs. Okechukwus, was a beautiful woman with a warm smile, but her presence made people uneasy. There was something in her eyes, a deep, unsettling hunger. The townspeople, curious and hospitable, tried to welcome them, but the Okechukwus never visited anyone, never attended town gatherings, and never spoke much about themselves. Then people started disappearing in the village of Ebube. It started with young Chigozie, a playful 12-year-old boy who loved climbing trees. One evening, he went to the forest to fetch firewood and never returned. His parents searched everywhere, shouting his name through the darkening woods, but only the wind answered them. A few days later, Mama Ifoma, a respected trader in the market, vanished on her way home. Her empty basket was found lying in the dust, her slippers a few steps away, as if she had been snatched in a hurry. Fear crept into the hearts of the people. Who was taking their loved ones? Was it wild animals or dark spirits? The elders called for a town meeting, but no one had answers. Meanwhile, the Okechukwus watched. At night, their house was always locked tight, but strange noises echoed from within. Whispers, the clinking of metal, the faint cries of something or someone. And yet, when villagers saw them during the day, they acted normal. Emeka, a young hunter, was the first to grow suspicious. He had seen the Okechukwus returning home late at night, dragging heavy sacks into their house. He noticed how they never went to the market to buy meat, yet their dog was always well fed. One night, Emeka decided to investigate. Armed with his bow and a small lantern, he sneaked to the Okechukwus' house, hiding behind a mango tree. The windows were closed, but a faint glow seeped through the cracks. Then he heard it, a moan, low, painful and desperate. It came from inside. Emeka's heart pounded. He crept closer. Pressing his ear against the wooden door, he could hear whispers. Mr. Okechukwus' deep voice and Mrs. Okechukwus' hushed replies. Then a scream. Emeka staggered back, his breath caught in his throat. He ran. At dawn, Emeka rushed to the village square, gathering the elders and young men. He told them everything, the sacks, the strange noises, the screams. Chief Okonkwo, the village oldest man, frowned. If what you saw is true, then we must act before more lives are lost. Armed with cutlasses, lanterns, and sticks, the men of Ebube marched towards the Okechukwus' house. They banged on the door, demanding answers. Then footsteps crept. The door creaked open, revealing Mrs. Okechukwus. She was smiling, but her eyes were sharp and calculating. "My husband is not home," she said sweetly. "How may I help you?" Chief Okonkwo stepped forward. "We need to search your house." Mrs. Okonkwo smiled. "But that won't be necessary. The men pushed her. What they found in the back room made their blood run cold. They saw bodies, not just bodies, but bodies without organs, stacked on top of one another like butchered livestock. Blood pooled on the floor, staining the walls. In the center of the room, a metal table stood covered in fresh blood and surgical tools. In the corner, Chigozie lay weak, barely breathing. His body covered in deep wounds. He looked up with teary eyes and whispered, "Help me!" The room exploded with cries of rage and horror. Mrs. Okechukwu lunged at Chief Okonkwo, pulling a dagger from her waist. But the villagers were faster. Emeka knocked the weapon from her hands, and two men grabbed her, tying her wrists with ropes. "Where is your husband?" they demanded. But Mr. Okechukwu was gone. Somewhere in the night he had vanished, leaving his wife to face the wrath of the people alone. The village decided her fate immediately. She was dragged to the center of the village square. And as dawn broke, the people of Ebube set her fate in stone. The chief declared, "Let this be a lesson. Evil shall not thrive in our land." And with that, justice was served. The Okechukwus were gone, but the scars remained. The village buried the bodies, mourning those they had lost. Chigozie survived, thankfully, but his eyes never lost their haunted look. As for Mr. Okechukwu, he was never found. But sometimes, on stormy nights, when the wind howled through the trees, people swore they saw a dark figure standing at the edge of the village, watching and waiting. And they knew that the nightmare was not over. This is the end of my story. Let me know if you enjoy my story. Thank you for listening, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.